Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It is super helpful. I'm here today with Magdiel Ventura, the founder and owner of Retrofest, a really awesome convention in Fort Worth. So we're going to talk to Magdiel about the show. We're going to talk about your history in gaming, how you got into video games to begin with. Cool?
Yeah.
And I just happened to run into Magdiel today at America Collector Toy Show in the Fort Worth area. So yeah, just pretty cool. So kick back, relax. We're going to talk retro gaming. Thanks guys for watching. Check it out. And at the end of the video, we'll show you what Magdiel picked up at this toy show. Something really cool. You guys are definitely going to want to check it out. All right, guys, you know I'm retro. You know I'm into the vintage stuff. So we're going to talk to Magdiel about how you got into retro gaming to begin with, how you got into video games to begin with, your first video game and all that stuff. And then we'll talk about Retrofest in Fort Worth coming up March
8th.
March 8th. It's a Saturday, one-day only show.
Yeah, from 10 to 5.
Fantastic. It's kind of has a swap meet vibe in a good way because there's tons of games there. It's cheap to get in. It's a great show. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I'll put the link to the Facebook page and the event site and all that stuff in the comments. March 8th in Fort Worth, Texas. You guys have got to go to Retrofest. All right, Magdiel, tell me about what's your first memory of playing a video game or seeing a video game?
My first memory, they were having a church yard sale. I grew up, my parents went to church very faithfully, and there was a church yard sale, and someone was selling some consoles, and it was the Intellivision. And
roughly what year would this have been?
I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. And I don't know how he came across all these.
And what year would this have been? Would this have been late 80s?
In late 80s.
Okay.
Late 80s.
Yeah.
Because I was born 1980.
Okay.
Yeah, so late 80s. And I don't know how he had several Intellivision consoles, but they called it Atari, of course. They were like, yeah, there's a guy selling Atari games. And so my mom took me to the church yard sale, and they were like, no, he already left. So we actually went to his house, and he had several Intellivision consoles.
So they didn't sell at the garage sale, so he just lugged them home.
He went home, and actually it was the second version. It wasn't the
Intellivision 2, the little white one.
Yeah, the little white one
with the detachable controllers. Yeah.
And so we went to his house, and I got to pick out. I got the console, and he let me pick out like 5 games. And so I picked out Atlantis, the ones that I remember: Atlantis, Dragonfire,
and magic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was baseball, and then there was a football game. So that was my first introduction to actually having a gaming console.
Right. Now, did you guys bring that home and hook it up to your living room TV?
We had a spare TV in one of the rooms, and so. Because it was like an older TV, and so I would plug it in there, and I would just play on there. So,
nice.
But it was like a little bitty spare TV.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, back especially in the 70s, most TVs just had one. Most houses just have one TV because they were very expensive, and it just wasn't a thing to have multiple TVs. But by the late 80s, with the NES and everything, sometimes kids started getting a TV in their room, or there might be a game room, or there might be a separate, just a random room in the house that has an extra TV. So extra TVs started being a little more common in the late 80s. Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah. Now, do you distinctly remember playing those particular games? And do you remember what your favorite Intellivision game was?
For sure, it was Atlantis.
Oh, phenomenal!
Yeah, because I mean, you're trying to keep the city from being destroyed.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool because you're just trying to get through all the levels and trying to and then that to me was. I actually have a copy of it just because of that.
Yeah, so for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah.
Do you still have like a CRT and old consoles set up at your house, or do you just do emulation and stuff?
No, I have old consoles. I have an Intellivision. I have actually my second console was a Magdiel Odyssey 2.
Well, that was my next question. So how did, after the Intellivision, where did you pick up this Odyssey 2?
At a yard sale.
Excellent.
My family, we grew up in a really bad neighborhood, so my parents didn't really have much.
Right.
I'm first generation Americans, and so they were Mexicans, so like we really didn't have much. So a lot of things I would get, I mean, everything I would get was from yard sales.
Right.
There was a house in the next block selling a gaming console. So I was, I think I went with my parents, and they stopped at the yard sale, and there was a Magnavox Odyssey 2. It had like its own tray, and it had games.
Yeah.
And so I remember.
So it had like a Magnavox published plastic.
It was like a plastic case, and it had the games were kind of stacked like this.
Right. Yeah, with little slots for the games and stuff.
Yeah. And
that's really rare, by the way. Much rarer than the 2600 version.
Man, and so I think we paid like $15 for it.
For the whole setup.
Yeah, for the whole setup, and so. My memories of that is playing Casey Munchkin.
Excellent game.
I played more Casey Munchkin than I did Pac-Man.
Well, yeah, it's a phenomenal game. Yeah.
I grew up more on Casey Munchkin, and so I have, I put Casey Munchkin over Pac-Man, which is really weird. It's just me, my personal. Yeah. I'm just biased like that, but yeah.
Well, I prefer Casey Munchkin to Pac-Man too. Yeah. Any version of Pac-Man, even arcade, because it's just a great game.
The pellets move. You have to go in the middle to get to the other parts. You have to wait for it opens, and the ghosts are still chasing you at the same time.
And you just get one life.
Yeah.
You're one and done.
Yeah, and sometimes. Since the pellets move, you can wait in the spot and it'll come to you sometimes. Yeah, there's more strategy involved in Casey. Did you play Casey's Crazy Chase? No, I never played that one.
Oh, dude, you've got to. It's an awesome game, and Michael Thomason with Good Deal Games, he actually made a third game in that series, like a homebrew.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you remember any other games from the Odyssey 2?
It was mostly like racing games, like Raceway, where you'd have a little car and
it's just a car in the middle. You're kind of going back and forth,
moving. There's Raceway, and then there was like basketball. And
pretty bad basketball game on the Odyssey too.
It is, because you could just sit there and just shoot it from wherever. Because the ball just comes down the middle and you kind of just shoot it.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Odyssey 2, I love the system because of things like Pickaxe Pete and the Casey games.
Yeah.
But man, the sports games are pretty bad.
Yeah, I had a football game, and it lagged a lot. Like you had to wait for like the whistle, and it would take forever. It was.
So did you get the 2600 after that, or did you just have friends that had the 2600?
I never got a 2600. I don't think I got another console after that until the Nintendo was already out.
Yeah, so maybe you got an NES in the 90s sometime?
Yeah, the only way I got to play games is I would go to friends' houses.
Yeah.
And also my mom, she worked cleaning houses in these really rich areas, which is the colonial area over there.
In Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. And so she would clean these and so during the summer, she would take me along with her. Yeah. And so I would go, and the kid there, they would never be there. They would always be on summer vacations. So I would get there, and he would have all the latest and greatest stuff.
So you'd see how the other half lives.
Yeah. He would have every single new game. Right. And so my mom would tell me, okay, she knew I wanted to go upstairs, because he would have all the toys too. He'd have the old Pee-wee's Playhouse set up.
Now, were you jealous, or did you just consider yourself lucky that you were able to do that?
I thought I was lucky just to be there.
Yeah.
There was no kind of man, I wish I had this. It was just I get to play with this stuff, Yeah. And so he had the whole Pee-wee's Playhouse with all the characters.
Wow.
And so, so my mom would say, okay, help me vacuum this whole bottom area, and then you can go upstairs and play. And so I would vacuum real fast. Yeah. Try to vacuum, and then I would run up there, and then I would just game for the rest of the time while she was there cleaning.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and so that was one of the ways I got to play a lot of the latest versions, Sega Genesis, of Nintendo.
That's incredibly cool. Yeah. The way I grew up is we actually had a decent we had a good neighborhood, and my dad had we had money enough.
Yeah.
Not a lot, not a ton, but enough. But we had enough to buy games and all that stuff. But my parents were very, very frugal. Yeah. And so it's kind of similar to you. Most of the games I played when I was young, before I got a job and started mowing lawns and stuff, was at other people's houses, because there was no way my parents were going to buy a $250 Atari or a $300 Intellivision or none of that. So I was 15 when I got my first console, just because my parents were very frugal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Later on, my dad did buy me a Nintendo. We went to Toys R Us. Yeah. And we bought a Nintendo.
Nice.
But the only way I would rent games, or I'd go with him I would go with him because my dad was a big avid flea market person.
Yeah.
He'd wake up really early and go to the flea market, and so I would just tag along with him.
Yeah. What kind of stuff was he looking for?
Tools.
Yeah.
Just tools and things that he needed.
Manly stuff.
Yeah, things that he needed around the house.
Right.
You know, from what I remember, he used to always pick up tools and things like that. But
Right.
but yeah, like I would go with him, and then I would just looking for video games.
Yeah.
And then so if I got lucky and found a video game like for cheap,
Yeah.
it had to be in the $10 range.
Sure.
It couldn't be like a $50 game.
Sure.
Because he would be like, nah, we're not buying that.
Right.
Or either that or rent games. Like my dad would take me to go rent games.
Yeah, it was really hard to get to game cheaply back then, because
Yeah.
now you've got decades to go back to. You can find
Yeah.
cheap stuff.
Yeah.
But back then, when games were still pretty new, it was hard to be a gamer on the cheap. You
Yeah,
had to play
yeah.
other people's games. You had to rent games.
Yeah.
Your collection might just have a few games in it because they were so expensive. So yeah, you really had to network and find
Yeah.
other ways to game.
Yeah, like 2 houses down, I had a friend who had a Nintendo, and he had a Super C, and so I played Super C more than I did Contra.
More than you did Contra?
Yeah, because he had Super C.
he had it, right.
And then he had the Ninja Turtles game. And so
Did you beat the TMNT?
No, like
It was difficult.
we would always get to the seaweed level.
Right.
I think there was one time where we did pass the seaweed level, and we
Yeah.
thought that was like an amazing
Woo!
feat. Yeah, we got to the
Right.
turtle van, and we're like, oh man, we got to the turtle van,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great memories, man. So after that, you just kind of remained
Yeah.
a gamer the whole time, and up
Yeah.
until the point where you actually run a gaming con, which is a difficult thing to do. It's
Yeah.
very hard to organize it, to manage it, to find a venue and all that stuff. So tell me about Retrofest. How did the idea come about, and and are you like the sole owner?
Yeah, whenever I brainstorm, because before this I had volunteered at SGC, which is Screw Attack Gaming Convention.
Oh, that was such an awesome show.
So I volunteered for the whole. I think 2 years I volunteered.
Yeah, like 2009, 10, around that time.
And so I got to see the behind the scenes of what was going on behind the scenes, the setup.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool how I got to see I got to help and set things up and
That's
so,
cool. That's a good education.
Yeah, and so so when SGC kind of went away, it was kind of a quiet period here in DFW. Like there wasn't really it was before Retropalooza. There was really there were no shows here in DFW.
I used to have to go to Oklahoma for the closest video game convention, Oklahoma Video Game Expo, because there was nothing, believe it or not, DFW is a hotbed of retro gaming now.
Yeah.
But man, back in that time, it was tough for shows,
and
especially.
I would always hear about shows going on like Portland Retro Gaming Expo. I would hear about PAX.
Yeah.
I would hear about all these shows, SoCal. I would hear about
Midwest Gaming Classic.
all these shows going on like far away, and I'm thinking like, this is DFW. Like we don't have anything here. Like
I was right there with you, brother. I
and
was
so-
like, what's going on? Why don't we have
And
shows?
so I'm like, what are we doing? And
Right.
so I was like, okay, I'm gonna make one. It's gonna be small, but it's something.
Yeah.
It'll be something just to bring everybody together.
Right.
I was on a road trip, so I was brainstorming all this, but then those fears crept in. Like, what if no one shows up? What if no vendors want to come?
Yeah.
Because they never heard of it.
Right.
And so I was just like, going back and forth. Like, okay, I could set up tables, and so I was like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and just put a call out for vendors. Just put a call out for vendors and see who shows up. And if I don't get enough vendors, I'll just cancel and say, hey guys, it just couldn't be done. No one really showed interest. And then, so I called it DFW Retrofest. And so I put the call out, and I was very nervous. I was like, you know what? Let's see what happens. I talked to my wife, and she got on board, and I wanted to do something,
Which is very important.
Yeah, I wanted to do something where take the kind of money drama out of it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna make it to where it'll be like a fundraiser, like a nonprofit fundraiser.
Yeah.
Just so I can be like, okay, it's not about the money. It's more about getting people together and doing good things. So
Building the community.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
actually hosted at a church?
yeah, I hosted at a church. We're at River Oaks Church of Nazarene in River Oaks, and so I got the permission there. I told them what I wanted to do, and they were on board with it. They were like, yeah, cool.
So that church wasn't necessarily affiliated with your family. You just found it as a venue?
No, we started going there, and I pitched the idea to them.
Oh, okay.
And they were okay with it. They're like, cool, we can try it. And
they have like a gymnasium.
Yeah, it's a big gymnasium.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we got a gymnasium. Like this is perfect. Like there's a gymnasium here. Like you know how grateful you should be just to have a gymnasium like that. For you to use. And so I pitched it to them, and they were like, cool. And I set up a date, and I set up a time, and I put the call out. And at first I got like 3 vendors. 3 people actually signed up.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I said, okay, there's 3. Then a little bit further down, I got 5 or 6. Then I got 8, and I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. So our first show, we had about 15 vendors.
Mm-hmm.
We had about 15 vendors.
I was at that show.
Yeah, we had about 15 vendors, and it was really trial and error. Like I was really kind of just going through, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Even now, I'm not saying everything, because it's never set. You always try to find things to bring, find different things to do. Sometimes you do something and it doesn't work, and you're like, okay, we're not going to do that next year.
Right.
So it even like with the concession stand, it was always, we're trying to figure out like what people like, what people don't like.
Yeah.
And
and you do tournaments there, right? Like
we did do tournaments, but it got too much for me to try to set up the consoles.
Right.
And I think one year I set up a Smash tournament for the GameCube. And someone stole all my controllers, and so.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Boy, to steal controllers at a fundraising event.
Yeah.
For a little retro gaming show—that is low, dude.
Yeah.
It's so low.
My controller got stolen.
Wow.
And I was like, I haven't set up any tournaments just because I don't have any. I've tried to go into the tournament Facebook pages to see if anybody wants to set one up, and I really haven't had any people.
So primarily, it's a show where you buy and sell and trade.
Yeah.
Like
it's buy, sell, trade. People are encouraged to bring in whatever they want to bring in to trade. We're really cool with that. We're really laid back show.
Yeah. It's got a great swap meet vibe, and I always see friends when I go.
Yeah.
And nobody's a stranger there. It's very welcoming atmosphere. It's very diverse.
Yeah.
It's just a great situation. Retrofest in Fort Worth, March 8th.
Yeah.
Awesome show. I've been to almost, I think I might have missed one just because it conflicted with something else I had out of town or something, but it's always a fun time. And if you're actually, my favorite part of any show is hanging out with people and checking out the vendor's room. And Retrofest has both covered completely.
And we get free comic books to the kids. Basically, I was thinking, like, I want the kids to actually leave with something, because a lot of time they come with their parents, and the parents are the ones really doing all the buying.
Yes.
So I went to a comic book shop, and I was like, hey, can I just get a whole bunch of kid-friendly comics? And so they sold me a big box, and actually they gave me 2 more boxes of comics they were just about to throw away.
Oh, that's great.
And so from there, we put comic books on the front table, and we let kids pick out comic books, so at least they can leave with something.
That's a great idea, because I used to own a comic book store, and I would see a parent come in that was a hardcore comic reader, and the kid would just be kind of standing there looking around, and the parent would not buy anything for the kid. So it was a little odd in that sense, but yeah, that's a great idea. So Retrofest, March 8th at the venue?
At River Oaks Church, which is 5620 Black Oak Lane, River Oaks, Texas.
And I will put all that information in the description, and it's a great show. Do you have like an early entrance for anybody, or any kind of VIP thing?
We have a VIP pass for $25, and that was something that everybody kept asking for. So we do allow VIP to get in 2 hours early.
2 hours early, nice.
Yeah, so they get in 2 hours early to
get all those deals.
To check everything out, and plus you get a voucher for our concession stand. You get the concession stand voucher, and then you get the VIP lanyard.
You guys make some really cool lanyards. Probably some of the best I've seen.
Yeah.
Really surprising from a small show. It's like, dude, you've gone above and beyond with the lanyards. Those are really cool.
At first, I was trying to figure out whether I was going to do a lanyard or just give everybody wristbands. I think so the first year I put together a lanyard, and everyone really liked it.
Yeah.
And me, I was just trying to identify, like, okay, who's supposed to be here, who's not.
Right.
That's really what it was for.
But people started collecting them.
Yeah, and people were like, hey, man, I like the lanyard. And, hey, man, this is cool. And then, like, the second year, I made a lanyard again. And so I saw people showing up with the first year lanyard.
Yeah,
and
they'd wear them both.
They wear them both. And I was like, okay, well, and so I've been doing that every year because the vendors really like it.
Very cool. All right, so as promised, we're going to show you what you picked up here at the America Collector Toy Show here in Fort Worth. So let's see what you got.
So I have this guy right here.
More than meets the eye.
Yeah, and so I'm a sucker for G1s. Like G1s are, you know, they're my main thing. So anytime I see a G1, and
you're talking Generation 1 Transformer.
Yeah, Generation 1 Transformer. Growing up watching the cartoon, you know, I've always been a big fan of the old school of the retro line. So someone hooked me up with this one for $20, which really wasn't bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, so so I picked it up, and yeah, it's really cool find. I'm really happy I found this. This is probably the only thing I'll buy today. You know, just because I'm trying to limit the spending right now. But you know, but yeah.
But hey, you got a good one there.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
There we go. Yeah,
that's gonna look killer on the shelf.
Yeah.
All right, Magdiel, I think this is the first time you've been on my channel.
Yeah.
Except for maybe just in passing at Retrofest when I do a walkthrough. But yeah.
Everybody just knows me from the Game Chasers episode when they found little Samson. I think that's what everybody remembers me from. It's funny because I was at a race one time because I do a lot of running, and so I was at a race, and someone actually saw me and said, "Hey, weren't you on the Game Chasers?" I'm like, man, I'm like, this will be the last place I would think that someone would recognize me, from a Game Chasers episode.
Yeah, gamers don't run.
He was like. Yeah, weren't you in this? So that was pretty funny.
That's hilarious, man. Well, thank you so much for being on.
All right, Brett.
That's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, appreciate the time.
Oh, you bet. And good luck with Retrofest.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you guys in another video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you're a Transformers fan, if you've been to America Collector Toy Show, and if you've been to Retrofest.
Yeah.
I would love to hear about it.
Yeah,
all right,
cool.
guys.
All right.
Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you in another video. See you next time.